The city streets were quiet as the billionaire's black car rolled toward his mansion. The sun was starting to dip behind the skyline, casting long shadows on the pavement. He had been away on a business trip longer than expected, and he had decided to come home early. The thought of surprising his daughter had crossed his mind, but he also wanted to see how things were without him. The idea of quiet, empty rooms and the hum of routine had always appealed to him, but today, he was unprepared for what awaited. As he drove through the gated entrance of his mansion, he noticed the lights on in the living room, flickering gently through the curtains. The sound of laughter reached him before he even stepped out of the car, and it caught him off guard. His brow furrowed. Who could be in the house at this hour? He didn't expect anyone except the household staff, who were usually discreet. But the laughter, it was light, joyful, and undeniably familiar. It belonged to his daughter. He parked his car and walked slowly toward the front door, each step heavier than the last. The key in his hand felt cold, unfamiliar in a way, as though he was about to enter a place that had changed without him. When he opened the door, the scene inside froze him in place. There, in the middle of the living room, was the black maid, cradling his young daughter in her arms. The girl was laughing and squealing with delight, her tiny hands clapping together as the maid lifted her up and down gently. For a moment, the billionaire couldn't speak. His mind raced. Why was she holding his daughter? Was she hurt? Why hadn't anyone told him about this? The room, usually quiet and orderly, now felt foreign and chaotic. Yet there was something in the scene that tugged at his heart, a warmth he hadn't anticipated. His daughter's laughter was pure and genuine, and the maid's gentle movements showed care and tenderness. The daughter noticed him immediately, her eyes widening in recognition. "Daddy," she shouted, her voice full of excitement. She wriggled in the maid's arms, reaching toward him. But even as she did, she looked secure and happy, clearly enjoying the attention and care she was receiving. The billionaire's initial shock began to mix with concern. He moved closer, careful not to startle them. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with worry. The maid turned to face him, holding his daughter securely. She smiled, a calm and reassuring presence. "Good evening, sir. Your daughter was feeling a little lonely, so I held her for a while. She seemed happy and safe, so I thought it would be okay until you returned." Her tone was respectful but confident, and there was no hint of fear or defensiveness. The billionaire blinked, trying to process the explanation. Part of him felt relief she was safe, but another part struggled with the sight of someone else holding her so closely, filling a role he hadn't anticipated. He stepped forward slowly, lowering himself to her level. "Are you all right, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice softening. The daughter nodded eagerly. "I'm fine, Daddy. She was just playing with me and making me laugh." Her small hands reached toward him and he gently took them, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. Despite his initial shock, he couldn't deny the joy he felt at seeing her happy. He looked at the maid, a mixture of curiosity and cautious admiration in his eyes. "You've been taking care of her like this often?" She nodded. "Yes, sir. She's been a little lonely since you left, and I tried to make her feel comfortable. I didn't want her to miss you too much." The billionaire's heart softened further. He realized how much he had missed. Not just her laughter, but the everyday moments that made her life rich and full. He had been busy with work, traveling from one city to another, signing deals and managing his empire. In all of that, he had neglected the small, important things like being present for his daughter, hearing her laugh and watching her grow. He took a deep breath, letting the tension ease from his shoulders. The maid had not overstepped. She had filled a gap out of genuine care, and it was something he couldn't ignore. He knelt beside his daughter, who was still giggling, and held her close for a moment. The warmth of her tiny body, the trust in her eyes, and the innocence of her laughter brought a wave of emotion that surprised him. "I'm glad you were here with her," he said to the maid, his voice carrying a note of gratitude. "Thank you for looking after her. I know she can be a handful sometimes, and I appreciate your patience and care." The maid smiled, a little relieved by his tone. "It's my pleasure, sir. She's wonderful, and I enjoy spending time with her." The daughter tugged at his hand, wanting him to join in her game. "Daddy, come play with me. We can make a fort with the pillows." Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and he felt a tug in his heart. He realized that he had been missing moments like this for far too long. He looked at the maid, who nodded encouragingly. "Go on, sir. She'll love it if you join her." With a small laugh, he agreed. All right, let's make this fort together. The little girl clapped her hands in delight and jumped down from the maid's arms, running to gather the cushions and blankets scattered around the living room. The billionaire followed, feeling a mixture of amusement and warmth. The sound of their laughter filled the room, blending with the faint hum of the city outside. As they built the fort together, the billionaire observed the maid quietly. She stayed nearby, offering suggestions and support, letting him interact with his daughter without interference but ready to step in if needed. He admired her patience and attentiveness, realizing that she had been an important presence in his daughter's life. The little girl noticed him watching and smiled. "She's nice, Daddy. She makes everything fun," she said, gesturing toward the maid. He nodded, feeling a deep sense of appreciation. He had expected to be the sole figure of attention and care, but he saw now that love and care could come from many people, and it didn't diminish his role as her father. Instead, it enriched her life. He felt a sense of humility and gratitude, acknowledging the small, important acts of kindness that often went unnoticed. They spent the next hour playing, laughing, and talking. The little girl shared stories about her days, her small adventures, and even her little worries. The billionaire listened, asking gentle questions and offering guidance when needed. He realized how much he had missed: the little conversations, the shared laughter, and the moments of connection that could not be replaced by wealth or success. The maid observed silently, a small smile on her face. She was happy to see the billionaire engaging with his daughter, witnessing a bond that was slowly strengthening. She knew her role was important, but she also understood that the father needed to reconnect in his own way. Her presence had created a bridge, allowing them to come together naturally. As the evening deepened, the little girl grew tired and yawned. The billionaire scooped her up gently, feeling the weight of responsibility and love settle over him. He carried her to her room, with the maid following at a respectful distance. They tucked her in together, the room filled with the quiet comfort of bedtime rituals. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "I'm here now. I'll always be here for you." The little girl smiled sleepily, reaching for him one last time before closing her eyes. The billionaire stayed by her side for a moment longer, watching her breathe peacefully. He realized that this day, unplanned and unexpected, had reminded him of the most important things in life: love, care, presence, and the small, everyday moments that truly mattered. When he finally stepped out of the room, he found the maid waiting patiently. "Thank you for today," he said sincerely. "You've done more than I can express. I appreciate everything you've done for her." She nodded, her expression calm and genuine. "It was my pleasure, sir. She's wonderful, and I care for her deeply." He paused, reflecting on the day and the lessons he had learned. This day had been a reminder that wealth and power could not replace the value of care, attention, and genuine human connection. He realized that true happiness and fulfillment came from being present, from nurturing relationships, and from showing love and compassion. As he walked through the quiet mansion, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The laughter of his daughter, the patience of the maid, and the warmth of their shared moments had left an indelible mark on his heart. He knew that from this day forward, he would strive to be more present, more attentive, and more engaged in the life of his daughter. The night was calm, the city lights twinkling outside the windows. The billionaire stood by the living room, looking out at the skyline, thinking about the events of the day. A simple request, a moment of care, and a surprise return had led to an experience that changed his perspective forever. He smiled softly, feeling grateful, humbled, and inspired. Tomorrow, life would continue with its demands, responsibilities, and busy schedule. But today, he had witnessed the true value of presence, care, and love, and he knew that he would carry this lesson with him, cherishing the bond with his daughter and respecting the importance of those who cared for her. The day had started with surprise and confusion, but it ended with understanding, gratitude, and a renewed sense of purpose. A day that would remain in his heart forever. The billionaire stayed in the doorway for a moment, watching the gentle interaction between the maid and his daughter. The laughter of the little girl filled the room again, and it struck him, how natural and easy it all seemed. She was safe, she was happy, and yet he couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. For a man accustomed to control, seeing someone else hold a position of care in his household, even temporarily, was new territory. He stepped fully into the living room, his eyes still on his daughter. She noticed him immediately and waved enthusiastically. "Daddy, look at this," she called, pointing to the small pillow fort they had built together with the maid's assistance. She ran toward him, but the maid's hands stayed close, ready to guide her if needed. The billionaire's initial instinct was to pull her away from the maid, but he stopped himself. He had to understand before he acted. The maid looked at him calmly, her tone respectful yet confident. "She wanted someone to play with, and I stayed close to keep her safe. I didn't mean to overstep, sir. She just needed a little company until you returned." The billionaire took a deep breath, realizing she spoke the truth. He saw the sincerity in her eyes and the gentle care she offered, and he felt a mixture of relief and admiration. "I see. Thank you for looking after her," he said quietly. "It means a lot." The little girl, unaware of the subtle tension, tugged at his hand. "Daddy, come play with us. We're building a castle," she exclaimed, pointing at the makeshift fort. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and he felt a tug in his chest. He realized that her happiness was the most important thing in the world, and that it did not diminish his role as her father to let someone else care for her when he was away. He knelt beside her, gently placing his hands on the pillows and adding a few adjustments to the structure. The little girl giggled, enjoying the shared attention. The maid smiled, watching quietly from the side, allowing the father-daughter interaction to flourish without interference. Her presence was comforting, a silent support that kept everything balanced. As they played, the billionaire's thoughts wandered. He remembered how often he had missed moments like this: birthday parties, school events, and quiet evenings at home. His life of business trips, meetings, and high-pressure decisions had distanced him from the most important parts of his daughter's life. Seeing her laugh and feel safe now, even in his absence, stirred emotions he had long neglected. After a while, the little girl paused, looking at both of them with curiosity. "Daddy, why didn't you come home sooner?" "I missed you." Her voice was soft, tinged with disappointment but also hope. He felt a pang of guilt. He crouched down to her level, taking her hands in his. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I had to travel for work, but I should have tried harder to come back sooner. I missed you too." Her eyes brightened and she smiled faintly. "It's okay, Daddy. She made me laugh when I was lonely." She gestured toward the maid. "She's nice and funny, and she plays games with me." The billionaire looked at the maid, appreciating her dedication and care. "I see that. Thank you for being here for her," he said sincerely. "I understand now how much your support matters." The maid nodded, her expression calm and proud, glad that he recognized her role. As the evening progressed, he continued to observe the bond between them. The little girl's trust in the maid was evident in every gesture, every laugh, and every playful movement. He noticed how she responded to the maid's guidance, her little feet following gentle instructions, her hands reaching out for reassurance when needed. The billionaire realized that her influence was positive, and it was shaping his daughter in ways he hadn't expected. He also began to notice the subtle ways his daughter sought him out. She would glance at him, smiling when he paid attention, showing him that even in his absence he could be part of these moments. He understood that presence was more important than constant oversight. The maid had created a space for care, but his role as a father was still irreplaceable. At one point, the little girl grew tired and sat down on the couch, leaning against the maid. "Daddy, can you sit with us?" she asked softly. He did, feeling the warmth of both her presence and the supportive role of the maid. The three of them shared quiet moments, simple conversation, and gentle laughter. It was a new kind of family interaction, balanced, caring, and human. He began asking her about her day, her thoughts, and her little adventures. She shared stories about school, friends, and small moments that mattered to her. He listened intently, responding with gentle questions and affirmations. Every smile, every word reminded him that his presence, even when sporadic, had a profound impact on her life. The maid watched quietly, giving them space while offering small guidance when needed. She spoke about how proud she was of the little girl's curiosity and courage. Her words were calm, respectful, and heartfelt, reflecting her genuine care. The billionaire began to appreciate the depth of her understanding and patience, realizing that her role was not just functional, but deeply emotional. A small disagreement arose as the little girl wanted to rearrange the pillows in a way the billionaire thought might collapse the fort. He intervened gently, showing her how to balance it safely. The maid offered a supportive suggestion, and together, They guided the little girl to achieve her goal without frustration. The moment highlighted the collaborative dynamic between them, teaching lessons of patience, problem-solving, and cooperation. As the night wore on, the little girl yawned. The billionaire picked her up gently, feeling the weight of responsibility and love. The maid followed at a respectful distance, ensuring that everything was safe and smooth. He carried his daughter to her room, noticing the contentment in her eyes and the calm trust in her demeanor. He realized that the bond she shared with the maid had not undermined his role but had supported it. They tucked her in, sharing a few soft words and a bedtime story. The billionaire noticed how attentive the maid remained, standing nearby, ready to step in if needed but allowing him to lead. Her presence had created a bridge, helping him reconnect with his daughter naturally and meaningfully. When the bedtime routine ended, the billionaire turned to the maid. "Thank you for today," he said sincerely. "You've done more than I can explain. Your care has made a difference, and I appreciate it deeply." She nodded, a quiet smile on her face. "It was my pleasure, sir. She's wonderful, and I care for her as if she were my own." The billionaire felt a sense of gratitude and humility wash over him. He had come home expecting quiet and routine, but he had found something far more valuable, a reminder of what truly mattered. The laughter, the small interactions, and the attentive care had opened his eyes to the importance of presence and emotional connection. As he left the room, he glanced back at the little girl, already drifting into sleep. The soft rise and fall of her chest, the peace in her expression, and the trust she had in both him and the maid filled him with a quiet resolve. He realized that wealth and power could not replace the small, meaningful moments of love, care, and attention. He walked through the quiet mansion, reflecting on the day's events. The surprise return had started with shock and confusion, but it had transformed into understanding, gratitude, and a newfound appreciation for the human bonds that enriched life. The little girl had been cared for, happy and secure, and he had been reminded of the responsibility and privilege of being her father. The night was calm, and the city outside shimmered with lights. The billionaire understood that tomorrow would bring the usual demands, but today had given him something invaluable, a chance to reconnect, to observe and to appreciate the care that surrounded his daughter. The maid had played an essential role, and he would never forget her dedication, patience, and genuine affection. This day had been more than a simple return home. It had been a lesson in humility, gratitude, and the value of human connection. He knew that the memory of this evening, the laughter of his daughter, and the quiet guidance of the maid would remain with him forever. It was a day that had opened his heart, reminding him that love, care, and presence were the true measures of a meaningful life. The next morning, the billionaire woke up earlier than usual, the events of the previous evening still vivid in his mind. He walked quietly through the mansion, careful not to disturb anyone, yet eager to see his daughter. The living room was bathed in soft morning light, and the maid was already there preparing breakfast while his daughter played nearby. The sight made him pause. There was a calm, peaceful rhythm to the home, a harmony he rarely experienced in his high-powered life. He observed them for a moment, taking in the natural connection they shared. His daughter laughed as the maid guided her in stacking breakfast plates, and the maid's gentle instructions were met with eager compliance and giggles. The billionaire felt a pang of both admiration and introspection. Here was someone who had become an integral part of his daughter's life, offering care and guidance he had often missed. The thought was humbling, and he realized how much he had neglected the simple acts of presence and attention. Clearing his throat, he stepped forward. "Good morning," he said, his voice soft yet carrying authority. His daughter looked up immediately, her eyes lighting up. "Daddy, you're here!" she exclaimed, running toward him with open arms. He knelt and embraced her, feeling the warmth and trust that only a child could give. The maid smiled and nodded, giving them space while keeping a watchful eye on the surroundings. Over breakfast, the billionaire paid attention to the small details, how his daughter's eyes lit up when she told a story, how she paused to ask the maid a question and then shared the answer with him. The maid moved quietly around the kitchen, serving food, her every action demonstrating care, patience, and attentiveness. He could see why his daughter felt so safe and happy with her. Yet he also recognized that this was not a replacement of his role as a father, but a complement to it. After breakfast, the little girl wanted to show her father a new game she had invented with the maid's guidance. She grabbed his hand eagerly, leading him to a corner of the living room where cushions and toys were arranged. "Daddy, watch," she said, demonstrating a small obstacle course she had created. The billionaire couldn't help but laugh, genuinely amused by her creativity and determination. The maid watched from a short distance, offering subtle suggestions without taking control, allowing the father-daughter bond to flourish naturally. As they played, he observed how the maid encouraged independence and creativity, guiding gently without taking over. He realized that the lessons his daughter learned from her extended care network were valuable: patience, problem-solving, and confidence. He felt a mixture of gratitude and humility, acknowledging the positive influence she had on his daughter's life. After some time, the little girl asked to sit down and talk. She perched on the couch, looking at both the billionaire and the maid. "Daddy, I missed you, but I like her too. She's nice and makes me laugh when you're not here," she said softly. Her words were honest and filled with love. The billionaire nodded, touched by her sincerity. He realized that love was not a finite resource. The presence of another caring figure did not diminish his role but enhanced her life. He turned to the maid, his tone calm and reflective. "I can see how much she trusts and loves you. It's clear that your care has made a difference. Thank you for that." The maid nodded, her expression gentle. "It's my pleasure, sir. She's amazing and it's easy to care for her. She's brave, smart, and kind." The billionaire felt a profound sense of respect for her dedication. He thought about the ways in which he had been absent, missed milestones, delayed returns, and the constant rush of work. The maid's presence had created stability, love, and attention, filling the gaps he hadn't noticed until now. He realized that her role was essential, not just practical, but deeply emotional. Throughout the day, they continued to engage in activities that nurtured connection. They read books together, with his daughter alternating between sitting on his lap and the maid's lap. She asked questions, laughed at funny illustrations, and even gently corrected him on parts of the story, showing confidence and curiosity. The billionaire listened attentively, realizing that these moments of interaction were more meaningful than any business deal or meeting he had ever experienced. At one point, the little girl wanted to go outside. The billionaire agreed, and they walked into the garden together. The maid followed, carrying a small basket of toys and supplies for outdoor play. As his daughter ran around, exploring the flowers and chasing butterflies, he observed her joy and freedom. The maid's calm guidance allowed the girl to explore safely, while he joined in, laughing and feeling the carefree happiness he had long missed. Sitting on a bench nearby, he reflected on the previous year. He remembered late nights at the office, hurried dinners, and the constant feeling of being pulled in multiple directions. He realized that in his pursuit of success he had missed countless small moments of significance. Yet now, observing his daughter's laughter and the quiet strength of the maid's guidance, he understood that meaningful presence mattered more than any accomplishment. His daughter ran back to him, holding a small bouquet of flowers she had picked from the garden. "Daddy, these are for you," she said, pressing them into his hand. He smiled, touched by the gesture, and hugged her tightly. The maid stood nearby, her face reflecting quiet pride and satisfaction. She had nurtured these small moments, allowing them to happen naturally, creating memories that would last a lifetime. As the sun began to set, they returned to the house. The little girl was tired but happy, and she sat down on the couch with her father and the maid close by. He reflected on the day, realizing how much he had learned simply by observing, listening, and participating. The trust his daughter showed, the affection she shared, and the guidance she received from the maid had taught him valuable lessons about presence, care, and love. The little girl leaned against him, whispering softly, "Daddy, I like it when we play together. I like it when she plays with me too. Can we always be like this?" He felt a lump in his throat, touched by her honesty and wisdom. "Yes, sweetheart," he replied gently. "We can always share moments like this. Love can come from many places, and it's wonderful to have people who care for you." The maid watched, smiling softly. She understood that the balance was delicate, but the father's presence was now integrated naturally into their daily life. She had created a space where trust and love could grow without pressure, allowing the father to reconnect with his daughter in a meaningful way. As night approached, they prepared for bedtime together. The billionaire tucked his daughter in, reading a story she had picked out. He realized that these moments of connection were invaluable. The maid stood by, ensuring everything was smooth and peaceful, but giving him the lead in this intimate personal ritual. Her presence had enabled him to reclaim his role as a caring and attentive father, while also supporting his daughter's sense of security and happiness. After she fell asleep, the billionaire and the maid shared a quiet conversation in the living room. He expressed his gratitude, acknowledging the critical role she played in his daughter's life. She spoke humbly but proudly about the little girl's progress, growth, and the joy she felt in caring for her. Their conversation was calm, respectful, and deeply human, reflecting mutual understanding and appreciation. The billionaire realized that this day had been a turning point. He had learned the value of patience, observation, and allowing others to contribute to the care of those we love. He understood that presence, attention, and genuine emotional connection could not be replaced by power, money, or status. The maid's guidance had been essential, and he felt a deep sense of respect and gratitude for her. As he walked through the quiet mansion, reflecting on the day, he felt a sense of renewal. The laughter, the small games, the shared stories, and the quiet guidance had opened his eyes to the importance of balance, care, and love. He knew that the lessons of today would stay with him, shaping how he engaged with his daughter, and how he appreciated the support of those who cared for her. He realized that family was not just about proximity or authority, but about presence, trust, and shared experience. The maid had created a space where these elements flourished, and he had been fortunate to witness and participate. The bond between father and daughter, strengthened and enriched by her care, was now more meaningful than ever. As the night deepened, he paused by the window, looking out at the city lights. He felt grateful for the unexpected lessons and the opportunity to reconnect. The day had started with uncertainty, observation, and reflection, but it ended with understanding, trust, and emotional growth. He knew that the memories of today, the laughter, the games, the gentle guidance, and the heartfelt conversations would stay with him forever, reminding him of the true value of presence and care in his daughter's life. The following morning, the billionaire woke up with a sense of anticipation he hadn't felt in a long time. The events of the previous day had left a mark on him, and he was eager to spend more time with his daughter and understand the depth of her connection with the maid. As he walked through the mansion, he noticed the soft sounds of laughter and playful chatter coming from the living room. The little girl was already awake, exploring toys and arranging them in a pattern, while the maid guided her gently, offering encouragement and patience. He paused at the doorway, taking a moment to watch them. His daughter's laughter was infectious, and the maid's calm presence created a serene environment that felt almost magical. He realized how much he had missed, these small moments of joy, creativity, and connection that could never be scheduled or forced. He stepped inside quietly, not wanting to interrupt but eager to join. The little girl spotted him immediately and ran toward him, her arms wide open. "Daddy!" she shouted, her face glowing with excitement. He knelt down and embraced her, feeling the warmth and love radiate from her small body. The maid stepped back slightly, her smile gentle and reassuring, giving them space to reconnect. After the hug, he asked her to show him what she had been doing. She led him to a corner of the living room where she had built a miniature city using blocks, toy cars, and little figures. The billionaire crouched down beside her, genuinely impressed by her creativity and attention to detail. The maid watched, quietly offering small suggestions when necessary but allowing his daughter to take the lead and express herself fully. "Daddy, look! This is our town," she said proudly, pointing to the blocks. "And this is the park, and these are people going to school." Her voice was animated, full of life and imagination. The billionaire smiled, engaging with her, asking questions about the little figures and their stories. He realized how valuable these moments were, not for the activity itself, but for the connection it created. The maid quietly interjected, offering insights about how the little girl had arranged the city and suggesting ways to add new features. He listened attentively, noting how her guidance encouraged creativity without taking control. He felt a deep sense of respect for her ability to nurture and support his daughter, while still allowing him to participate meaningfully. It was a balance he had never considered before, and it left him thoughtful. After some time, they moved to the kitchen for breakfast. The billionaire joined them, helping his daughter pour cereal and pour juice while the maid prepared additional items. Their interactions were natural and warm, filled with laughter, small mishaps, and gentle teaching moments. He realized that he had been missing out on these ordinary, yet extraordinary experiences for far too long. Over breakfast, the conversation turned to school, friends, and little adventures. His daughter spoke animatedly, sharing details about her day and asking questions about things she was curious about. The billionaire listened carefully, responding with interest and guidance. The maid encouraged conversation and exploration, her presence supportive yet unobtrusive. He realized that she had created a space where his daughter felt safe to express herself, and he felt grateful for that. Later in the day, the little girl suggested they go to the garden to play. The billionaire agreed, and they went outside, the maid following with a small basket of toys and art supplies. In the garden, they explored, played, and created small works of art with colored chalk on the patio. The little girl laughed as her father joined in, drawing shapes and playing games. The maid observed and guided subtly, ensuring safety and offering praise and encouragement. At one point, the billionaire noticed a small bruise on his daughter's knee. Concern and worry flashed through him, but the maid calmly explained that she had tripped during play earlier, and she had been tended to immediately. Her calmness and thorough explanation reassured him, and he felt a surge of gratitude for her vigilance and care. He realized that her role went beyond simple tasks. She provided emotional security and physical safety, something he could not always guarantee given his demanding lifestyle. As the day progressed, the little girl grew tired and requested a story before a nap. The billionaire agreed, sitting beside her on a large chair while the maid fetched the book. She read with him, occasionally glancing at the little girl to ensure she was comfortable. The story time was filled with laughter, questions, and gentle discussions about the characters and their adventures. The billionaire realized that these interactions were teaching his daughter lessons about empathy, curiosity, and imagination, guided by both his presence and the maid's attentive support. After the nap, the little girl woke refreshed and happy. The billionaire decided to have a small tea party with her in the living room. They arranged the table with cups, plates, and snacks, and the maid assisted by pouring tea and offering guidance on etiquette and manners. The little girl giggled as she pretended to pour tea for her father, and he played along, enjoying the simplicity and joy of the moment. The maid's calm and patient demeanor allowed the experience to unfold naturally, enhancing rather than controlling the interaction. Throughout the day, the billionaire continued to reflect on his role and the importance of presence. He realized that he had often equated care with financial provision, believing that his work and wealth could substitute for time and attention. But the maid's presence and guidance had shown him that genuine care required patience, consistency, and emotional engagement. His daughter thrived not only on love but also on the structure, support, and understanding provided by both him and the maid. As evening approached, the little girl grew sleepy again. They prepared for bed, with the billionaire tucking her in and reading another story. The maid stood nearby, ensuring comfort and safety but allowing him to lead. He realized that her presence had created a bridge, a support system that strengthened his relationship with his daughter, rather than replacing it. Her guidance had been essential in fostering trust, love, and emotional security. Once the little girl was asleep, the billionaire and the maid had a quiet conversation in the living room. He expressed his gratitude for her dedication, patience, and care. She spoke humbly, acknowledging the importance of creating a nurturing environment for his daughter and ensuring that he could reconnect meaningfully. Their conversation was honest, respectful, and deeply human, reflecting mutual understanding and appreciation. The billionaire realized that the lessons of the day extended beyond simple interactions. He had learned to observe, reflect, and appreciate the value of support systems, recognizing that care, love, and guidance could come from many sources. The maid's influence had been invaluable, teaching him the importance of patience, attention, and presence in building meaningful relationships. As he walked through the quiet mansion that night, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The laughter of his daughter, the gentle guidance of the maid, and the shared moments of joy had left an indelible mark on his heart. He knew that moving forward, he would strive to be more present, attentive, and engaged, understanding that love and care could never be substituted by wealth or authority. He paused by the window, looking out at the city lights and reflecting on the day. He realized that family was not defined solely by proximity or control, but by presence, trust, and shared experiences. The Maid had created a space where these elements flourished, and he had been fortunate to witness and participate. The bond between father and daughter, strengthened and enriched by her guidance, was now more meaningful and resilient. The billionaire felt a sense of gratitude and humility as he prepared for bed himself. The day had been long but rewarding, filled with lessons about care, connection, and the power of human presence. He knew that the experiences of today, the laughter, the games, the quiet conversations, and the gentle guidance would stay with him, shaping how he approached his role as a father and how he valued the people who supported and nurtured his daughter. As he lay in bed, he thought about the future. He understood that life would continue to be demanding, but he was determined to create space for these meaningful moments. The Maid's presence had taught him the importance of support, patience, and collaboration, and he was committed to applying these lessons in his relationship with his daughter. He felt a deep sense of peace knowing that love, trust, and care had been shared and strengthened today, laying the foundation for a stronger, more connected family life. The morning sunlight streamed into the mansion, painting the living room with a golden glow. The billionaire woke up with a sense of anticipation and calm. The events of the past few days had transformed his perspective, and he was eager to spend the day fully with his daughter. The house was quiet, except for the soft sounds of the little girl playing in her room and the occasional hum of the maid preparing breakfast. He walked to the living room quietly, observing the scene. His daughter was arranging her dolls in a circle, giving each one a small, imaginative story. The maid knelt beside her, guiding her gently, encouraging her ideas, and praising her creativity. The billionaire paused, appreciating the natural and nurturing environment that had formed in his absence. He realized how essential this balance of care was for his daughter's happiness and growth. The little girl noticed him and ran to him, her face bright with joy. "Daddy!" she exclaimed, throwing herself into his arms. He embraced her tightly, feeling her warmth and trust. The maid smiled from a short distance, giving them space to connect while maintaining a watchful eye. The billionaire realized that her presence had enabled him to step into his fatherly role with confidence and ease. After a hearty breakfast together, they decided to spend the morning in the garden. His daughter led the way, holding her father's hand and giggling with excitement. The maid followed, carrying a small basket with toys and craft materials. In the garden, the little girl ran freely, exploring flowers and chasing butterflies while the billionaire joined her in playful activities. The maid's guidance ensured safety, offered support, and subtly encouraged independence. At one point, the billionaire noticed a small scratch on his daughter's hand. Concern flashed across his face, but the maid reassured him calmly. "She tripped over the edge of the patio while reaching for the flowers, sir. I cleaned it and checked that she was okay. She's fine now." Her calm and responsible demeanor reassured him, and he felt deep gratitude for her vigilance. He realized that her role went far beyond simple household tasks. She provided emotional stability, safety, and guidance, complementing his fatherly presence. As the morning faded into afternoon, the little girl suggested they have a picnic in the garden. They spread a blanket under the shade of a tree, and the billionaire helped arrange sandwiches, fruit, and juice. The maid ensured everything was ready and safe, but allowed him to take the lead into